Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping straight into a pretty major Supreme Court decision.
Yeah, it's one that's really making waves. Seems like it's recalibrating some things in Washington.
Definitely. A real shift, it feels like, in the balance between, the president and the courts.
That's a good way to put it. And look, this isn't just about one policy, is it? Our goal here, our mission for this deep dive, is really to unpack what this ruling actually means.
Right. Not just for the last administration, but like for future presidents, too, and how government works.
Exactly, the whole process of governing.
Okay. And we're basing this discussion today on some recent reporting from the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation. Their piece was called Supreme Court Decision on Birthright Citizenship Broadens Trump's Power.
A pretty clear title.
Yeah, tells you where they're headed. So what you can expect listening in is, well, we'll explore some perhaps surprising details, look at the deeper implications.
hmm
We want to help you get a solid handle on it, without getting buried in jargon.
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Let's dive in.
Okay, so let's start with the immediate thing. Birthright citizenship. That idea that if you're born here, you're a citizen.
Right, regardless of your parents' status,
Yeah.
a long-standing principle in the U.S.
And the court basically handed Donald Trump what the source calls a significant victory.
Yeah, and not just him, but it sets things up for future presidents, too. Specifically, it seems to curb the power of lower courts.
Their power to block executive orders, right?
Exactly. That's the key mechanism here. And President Trump's reaction, well, it was immediate.
Oh, I bet. What did the source say?
Described him as beaming. He told reporters it was a big, amazing decision.
Beaming, huh? Not holding back.
No. Called it a monumental victory for the Constitution, the separation of powers, and the rule of law, and a giant win.
Wow. He also, didn't he tie it directly to immigration?
He did. He said, quote, the birthright citizenship hoax was indirectly hit hard.
A hoax. Strong words.
And he added it would prevent scamming of our immigration process. So yeah, the message was very clear. This wasn't just procedural for him.
Right. It was about his specific policy aims.
Definitely. So the Supreme Court has, well, it's opened the door, as the BBC puts it.
Open the door for the administration to stop granting automatic citizenship to everyone born here.
Essentially, yes. The executive order can apparently go into effect in about a month's time.
Okay, but hang on. There's a catch, right? The reporting said the court left room for lower courts to curb the impact.
Ah, yes. Crucially, on those who have standing to sue.
Okay, standing to sue. Let's unpack that. What does that actually mean here? Does this just, end birthright citizenship, or is it more complicated?
It's definitely more complicated. Standing to sue is a legal hurdle. It means you, as an individual or group, have to show you're directly and personally harmed by the policy to even bring a case.
So it's not like anyone can challenge it.
No, it means the challenges will have to be much more targeted. So the door's open? Maybe, but it's not like a wide open floodgate shutting down birthright citizenship immediately for everyone.
Okay, that makes sense. But still, even with this ruling, there's a practical problem, isn't there? States are the ones issuing birth certificates.
That's a huge practical challenge.
Yeah, and the source mentions many states do not record the citizenship of the parents.
Right? And it also points out that, Democratic-run state governments will be in no rush to do so.
Yeah, I can imagine. Sounds like it could get pretty messy on the ground. Decentralized enforcement sounds tough.
It absolutely sets up a kind of practical showdown. And Justice Amy Coney Barrett, who wrote the majority opinion, seemed to see this coming.
How so?
Well, the source says she left the door open for states to make the case that a more broad block on this action might be needed.
Okay, so the states themselves might have standing.
Potentially. Barrett actually wrote, and I'm quoting here from the source, quote, as the states see it, their harms, financial injuries, and the administrative burdens flowing from citizen-dependent benefits programs cannot be remedied without a blanket ban.
So the states might argue they're harmed by the chaos.
Precisely. Financial harm, administrative burden. And then Barrett tells the lower courts, basically, figure it out.
What was the exact instruction?
The lower courts should determine whether a narrower injunction is appropriate, so we leave it to them to consider these and any related arguments.
Huh. Sounds like the Supreme Court saying, okay, we set the big rule, now you lower courts deal with the fallout.
That's a fair reading. It definitely sets the stage for more legal fights.
And those fights are coming.
Seems certain. Attorney General Pam Bondi apparently said the Supreme Court itself will decide on ending birthright citizenship this October in its next session.
Wow. So this specific issue is far from over. Big legal battles ahead then.
Definitely.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Beyond just birthright citizenship, this ruling has these immediate, wide-ranging consequences. Why? Because it limits.
Nationwide injunctions
Okay.
issued by lower court federal judges.
Right. Nationwide injunctions. Now, for folks listening, maybe not deep in the legal weeds, what exactly is that and why is limiting them such a big deal?
Okay, so think of it like this. One single federal judge, maybe in Texas or California, hears a case and decides a new presidential policy is likely illegal.
Okay.
With a nationwide injunction, that one judge can hit pause on that policy across the entire country, not just for the people who sued, but everywhere.
Wow. One judge stops a whole policy nationwide. I can see why presidents wouldn't like that.
Exactly. And it's been a major flashpoint. The source notes both Democratic and Republican presidents have complained about it.
Right. They call them ideological jurists or something.
Yeah, basically saying judges are blocking policies they just disagree with politically, single-handedly stopping executive actions or even laws from Congress. It's been a source of friction for years.
Okay, that context helps. And under Trump, this happened a lot.
Apparently so. The Congressional Research Service counted 25 times.
25. Between his inauguration and April 29th, that's quite a few.
It really is.
Hmm.
Policies getting temporarily thwarted, as the source says.
What kind of things are we talking about? What got blocked?
All sorts. The report lists things like cuts to foreign assistance, diversity programs, and other government agencies.
Okay.
Also, limiting his power to fire government employees, putting other immigration reforms on hold.
Immigration again.
Yep. And even suspending changes the White House wanted to make to election processes. So, pretty fundamental stuff.
Yeah, those are major executive actions. And Trump's comment afterwards makes sense then, he said.
We can now properly file to proceed with policies that have been wrongly enjoined. Basically, the roadblocks are gone.
So this ruling clears the path for those kinds of policies to move ahead faster, at least initially.
That seems to be the immediate effect, yes.
Okay, so we see the impact on birthright citizenship. We see how it helped Trump push past previous blocks. But you said earlier this affects future presidents, too.
Absolutely. This isn't just about Trump. It sets a new precedent for presidential power, period. Affects his successors, Republican or Democrat.
Can you give us some examples? How did this injunction issue affect other presidents to show it's not just, a partisan thing?
Sure. The source points out that under President Biden, conservative judges used injunctions quite a bit.
Against what?
Things like stopping Democrats from putting new environmental regulations in place, blocking student loan forgiveness, changing immigration rules.
Ah, so the shoe was on the other foot then.
Exactly. And go back further to Barack Obama's presidency, courts blocked his moves too.
Like what?
Changes trying to normalize immigration status for some undocumented immigrants, DAPA and expanded DACA, basically, and also preventing him from making more white-collar workers eligible for overtime pay.
Okay, so it really does cut both ways. Presidents of both parties have run into these nationwide blocks from lower courts.
Precisely. So this ruling, while prompted by the Trump administration's challenges, potentially benefits any future president trying to implement their agenda without these immediate sweeping judicial stops.
That's a really crucial point. So what does this mean then for how courts review presidential actions? Can they still step in if they think something's illegal? Or is this like a green light for the executive branch?
No, it's definitely not a green light or, a get-out-of-jail-free card.
Right.
Courts absolutely can still step in.
Okay.
They can still halt presidential actions they find illegal or unconstitutional.
Yeah.
That power remains.
There was a but, isn't there?
The but is when they can step in effectively on a nationwide basis.
Mm-hmm.
The ruling suggests this kind of intervention should now come later.
Later? How much later? Like at the appeal court level? Or the Supreme Court itself?
Exactly. Further along in the judicial process. At the appellate and Supreme Court levels, rather than immediately from the first district judge who hears the case.
Ah, I see. So it's not if they can block, it's when the block might take effect nationwide. What practical difference does that timing make?
Well, it makes a big difference. The practical result, as the source suggests, is presidents will have more time and space to act.
More runway, basically.
Yeah, more runway. Instead of potentially getting stopped cold across the country right out of the gate by one judge, the policy can get implemented, at least for a while.
And the Supreme Court's opinion actually told the lower courts to hurry up.
Kind of. It instructed them to move expeditiously, to make sure any injunctions they do issue fit this new rule and comply with principles of equity.
Principles of equity? Sounds like fairness, proportionality.
Essentially,
Yeah.
yes, don't issue a nationwide block if a narrower fix would do